Good morning, my dear children of class 7. Today I shall be dealing with a video that shall deal with a new chapter, a chapter that talks about a young girl, a girl who might be of your age, though it is not mentioned yet. She is an extremely young girl and a girl who happened to rebel against her parents. A girl who was a rebel by nature. Rebel why? Because she wanted to do something which was against the societal norms, which her parents, the grown-ups of her house, completely objected. So now what she wanted to do, let us move ahead with the story, The Bell by Geeta Krishna Kutty. All right, so now let's move ahead with the story, children. An unusual sense of excitement pervaded her visit to the temple this evening. So there was this unusual sense, something which quite strange, which never happened. Such kind of excitement, such kind of feeling pervaded, for a very long time. It spread through in her for a very long time before especially, she was looking forward to her visit to the temple that evening. And why was she excited? Let us move ahead and see. There had been an argument over lunch between her and the grown ups when she had announced her decision to ring the bell in front of the sanctuary at the hour of lamp lighting. So, this was the reason why she had that unusual sense of excitement. She was excited too. Why? Because she was looking forward that evening to ring the temple bell. And this was not liked nor was it liked nor was agreed by her parents, and because of that it led to a small quarrel, small argument, verbal argument in the afternoon during their lunch time, when she announced that she wanted to ring the bell and the parents objected immediately. you know then she shouted, saying, "If Thangam can ring it, so can I." She debated hotly. She argued hotly, angrily. She said that if Thangam, why can't I ring the bell? If Thangam can ring the bell, so can I. Then see, they protested in shocked voice, the grown-ups of the house, her elderlies, her parents. They protested. They protested means they objected. In shocked voice, they were completely shocked to hear her decision, her desire. Then Thangam is the daughter of the temple priest. She is allowed to touch the bell. So this ringing of the bell was allowed only to some say as to a particular section of people, and that was the Brahmin section, the uppermost class in the society. So this society where this little girl, she and her parents lived in, it was a class biased society where certain section of people could enjoy few rights which the others could not. And out here, Thangam, she being the daughter of the temple priest, only she could enjoy the right to ring the bell. So this was the reason why her grown-ups, her elderlies, her parents, they objected to her strange and unusual idea of ringing the bell, which was completely against the norm of the society. Then she responded, this little girl, she responded angrily that Thangam came over to play hide and seek every afternoon and behaved no differently from any of them. So she gives a very valid reason. That what she says is that she responded when her parents said that Thangam, only you cannot ring the bell. Only Thangam can ring the bell because she is the daughter of the priest, temple priest. And in response, this little girl, she angrily replied, that what is the difference between me and Thangam? We play every day we play hide and seek together in the afternoon, and she never behaved differently from any of us children in this society. In fact, we played together every afternoon. We played the game of hide and seek every afternoon. And she looks no different, nor does she act different from us. So why? Why that she only be allowed to ring the bell? So she immediately rebels. See, And this makes and when we as readers, when we think of what this girl said to her parents as her reply, it is extremely very true too, because what difference is there, but again the question is, but the question is that, were they was her view that she regarded that she was no different from Thangam acceptable in that society where she lived? Definitely no, because I already told you she lived in a very class based society where people were divided based on their class, where every class had their own restrictions, had their own freedom, where few of the rights and few of the acts that some certain section of society, a certain class of people, if they could enjoy, the others could not. Like for example, the Brahmins, they could enjoy the highest of the highest right, which the other lower classes could not. So that is why definitely it was very expected and very natural for her parents to object this little girl from ringing the bell. Then see, besides, the little girl, she added, goading them deliberately. Goading means to provoke or to annoy them. Deliberately means you do something when you want to make somebody angry, when you know that when you do something, if you want to do something, and that something causes somebody to get angry, in spite of knowing it, you do it. You do it deliberately. You do it on purpose, intentionally knowing that you are going to make the other person angry. So she did that. She said she was about to say something which she knew that it would annoy her parents. And what she said? She deliberately said that we are all equal in the eyes of God. Besides, we are all equal in the eyes of God. So why that difference? See, she was not quite sure whether they had heard of this bit, for they had already turned away in disgust, and before she could even complete this last sentence of her parents, the grown-ups of her house, they had already turned their back, turned away in disgust, in extreme intense dislike, and they had already left the room, leaving her behind all alone. And she was not pretty sure. After having said that, she was not very sure whether her parents and the grown-ups of her house actually did hear what she said last. But after lunch, she caught them whispering. As she was passing by, she heard the grown-ups whispering, talking to themselves in one room. They were huddled in one room, and they were whispering about that horrid English school she goes to, which meant that they had heard. So the parents, they were basically blaming the English school that she went to, that she was studying in. The parents blamed that it was because of due to the kind of education that was being imparted in that English school, that she had developed such kind of rebellious nature. So they were blaming the school. This is very relatable with the society that the Indian society, our society, where we live in, where finally what happens, what they do is they overlook the mistake. They overlook the mistake of their children, and they seek for reason to blame the other. All right, that also is shown in this paragraph, where they instead of trying to tell her what is good, what is right, and instead of trying to understand instead of trying to understand her, they rather blame the English school where she is studying, and they try to find the fault. Yes. So then let's move ahead. But she was sure that they had not taken her very seriously. And this girl, she was quite smart. She very knew, she certainly knew that. She was very confident that the parents, her parents, and the other grown ups of her house had not taken her seriously at all. Whatever she had said, they have not at all taken it seriously. That was the trouble with the grown-ups, and that was the trouble of the grown-ups that every child they face. Yes, they always presumed that if they told her she would understand everything when she was older, she would accept their wisdom and authority unquestioningly and not dream of going against them. So they presumed that if had this girl, the problem of the grown up with most of the grown up is this, that they start imagining and they start presuming that had their child been old enough to understand what they are trying to explain and make her understand, then probably she would have definitely understood her parents and would have, without any question, without any doubt, would have obeyed her parents if she had been old enough. But since she is young, she does not understand at all. That is what this is the kind of idea and the thought and the feeling that the grown-ups have towards their younger children, especially when they rebel. So that is exactly what the nature of the grown-ups too have been highlighted out here, in the Indian society that existed then, So then, let's move ahead. She therefore submitted with good grace to the suggestion that she accompany her grandmother to the tank for her evening bath, though she really preferred the makeshift bathroom at the back of the house. So she knew that whatever she had explained, whatever she had tried to make her parents and the grown-ups understand, they would definitely not take it seriously. But at the same time, this girl was quite smart. She so wanted to ring the bell. She had some other intention, she had some other plan in her mind where, though she wanted to ring the bell, but she tried to pretend and make it seem to her parents, in front of her parents, made it seem as if she was obeying her parents. All right. So what she did in order to fool her parents, she obeyed to all their little orders, The orders like, they had asked her to accompany her grandmother to go to the public bath, to the tank for the evening bath, which she disliked the most because she preferred the makeshift bathroom which was at the back of her house. She preferred that more rather than going all the way to the tank, to at the public bath to take an evening bath. But she reluctantly agreed. Right, just in order to make the parents feel happy and to make them to compel them to presume that she was obeying all of their order. So then she hated the slippery stepstones of the tank, the dark green slime at the edges menaced her foothold, So what she hated about that tank was it was very, very slippery, it was very slimy, there was slime all over, and there was huge probability where she might anytime slip and fall. So the water had sullen, dangerous look and always felt bitterly cold. So these were the things that she hated about that bath, and that was why she disliked. But yet, in order to keep her parents' heart and to make them feel as if she was the kind of girl who would definitely obey her parents, she followed their orders and she agreed and complied to all their wishes by accompanying her grandmother for the evening bath. Then she did not even, but she endured it all today with no complaint. She bared it without any complaint, chattering brightly and pretending as if she was very happy, chattering brightly. She did not fuss even when the tiny fish swarmed around her ankles, pecking at them viciously. Viciously means dangerously, threatening her precarious balance, threatening her precarious balance. Precarious means unstable balance. Why unstable? Because that place was very slimy and slippery. So she did not complain any of these things that she actually always had hated. All right. Then back again at the house, she had to undergo the intensely uncomfortable ritual of hairdressing. The first thing that she disliked was the public bath, which she did, which she did agree to her parents by accompanying her grandmother. And the second thing that she had to undergo that afternoon after the bath was the uncomfortable ritual of hairdressing. And what was it like? They smoothed her hair with what felt like a whole jar of oil. So it was the process of oiling her long mane, her long hair, which she disliked the most. Why? Because she felt as if, by the amount of oil that her mother would apply on her hair, she would feel like as if, the entire jar of oil had been poured on top of her head. Separated each shining strand till it hung limp and straight and lifeless down her back, then tied up in a tight skin stretching knot on top of her head, securing it with a fiber of banana stem. So this was how her hair was oiled, where her mother would take each strand of her hair and oil it, heavily oil it till it hung limp lifelessly. And after having oiled each and every strand of her hair there on top of her head, her mother would nicely gather all the strands and tie a huge knot on the top of her head. And so she would do a she would tighten it so tightly that it would stretch her skin literally. So, and then it was tied by a banana stem. She was thankful none of her school friends could see like this, and to be in that state where the long thick mane was tied into a knot, oily, dripping, where her forehead was shiny and sticky, all due to the oil that was dripping from her hair. She was very thankful that she none of her friends were there to see her in that embarrassing state. She felt, else she would feel very, very embarrassed had any of her friends seen. So she did not like that procedure at all, that very process of oiling her hair. Then what happened? Droplets of oil oozing down her temples gave her tiny shivers of disgust. She felt so disgusted with that, oil that was trickling down her, that was oozing down her temples. The temple is this part, this region of your head is called the temple. So the oil was oozing, and she felt so disgusted. She felt this intense feeling of hatred, grew in her. She felt like getting out of that skin of hers immediately, then and there. So, and then she Slimy made her long to wriggle out of her skin. She bit back her annoyance, but she resisted, she endured it. For why? Why did she endure all these two difficult tasks and the most hated task? Why do you think she did? So that the parents would not at all come under the impression that she might do something which that evening she wanted to create an impression in front of her parents that she was an obedient girl and she would obey whatever her parents would ask her to do. And not just that, she actually had a whole new intention, another intention underneath it. The actual intention that she carried underneath it, underneath all these obedient girl like act, was that she that evening by anyhow wanted to ring the bell. So see, she was going to that extent where she endured it persistently. Yes, she bit back her annoyance, contenting herself, satisfying herself with a savage swipe at her oily forehead with the edge of her skirt, when they were not watching. So, while they were not watching, she would quickly wipe her forehead, where the oil was oozing down her temple. Then she was ready before the evening flurry of lamp lighting had started, and before the evening had set in, she was already ready after having undergone all these hateful procedure. The old toothless major domo. Major domo is the header, the chief steward of a large household. So the major domo of the household, Kelu Nair, was instructed to accompany her today. So Kelu Nair was he was an old toothless the servant, the servant who was the chief servant, of the household. Kelu Nair was instructed to accompany her today, so she was not allowed to go to the temple alone. So the parents were or in fact, they were trying to take some precautionary measure by asking Kelu Nair to accompany her so that she does not do something which would put their family to shame. Yes. Why could they never understand how ridiculous she felt, how silly she felt being escorted by him, by being escorted? Escorted means to be taken, yes, to be taken for safeguard, yes. So she felt an embarrassment to be escorted by Kelu Nair, and she did not want him to be taken of all the people. But since Kelu Nair was an old steward, a very persistent steward, and a very loyal and a very obedient servant of that household, whom all the house members entrusted, so she felt that, probably the company of Kelu Nair might impose a threat, might impose an obstacle to her plan that she wanted to execute that evening. Besides the ridiculous feeling that she felt to be accompanied by Kelu Nair, that thing was there at the back of her head too. So she did not want to be. So all in all, she did not want to be escorted by Kelu Nair at all. She felt it was an embarrassment. She had reminded her mother many times that she walked alone to school every day when they were back in town, that she even went by herself to the bakery at the end of the road to buy sweets and cakes. Her mother simply pretended not to hear. She alternately envied and detested the grown-ups for their loathsome means something which is hateful, habit of not hearing whatever they found inconvenient. Means something inconvenient means something which is not very easy or simple to answer. So she tried, after having heard that Kelu Nair would accompany her to the temple, she persistently made a request to her parent, to her mother especially, explaining her how, she was independent enough, to go all alone, to walk all alone to the temple. And she gives reasons. She explains, explaining how she, while at town, when they were living at town, how she could alone walk to school every day. And not just that, she could even go down to the road to buy sweets and cakes all by herself. And today of all the day, why did her mother had to ask Kelu Nair to accompany her to the temple? So this little girl was extremely agitated, and she was not at all happy with what her mother had asked Kelunaya to do, and that was to accompany her to the temple. And she hated at the same she hated the grown-ups. At the same time, she envied them. She envied them, she hated them for their loathsome habit, for the hateful habit of not hearing, often ignoring all those questions and requests of their children, which they found very inconvenient, and something which was not very easy to answer and to explain. So this was the kind of dispute that was going on between this little girl and her grown-ups and the grown-ups of her house. So maybe you young children might also have, although not at this level, but you might have, if not with your parents, but maybe with your brother or your elder brother or with your elder sister, you might have faced such kind of similar situation where you wanted to do something, but your desire was it was not accepted, or it was objected directly by your guardians, by your elderlies. So you can very well relate with the situation, becomes even more interesting. And for today, for this video, I shall conclude this video till here. So this will be the first part, and the second half, the last part of this video, I shall be continuing in the next video next week. Till then, stay tuned. If at all, once again, if at all you do not understand some certain lines, or if you have some confusion, if you have any further query, you could always personally WhatsApp me. All right, I shall always be available. I shall always be at your service. Thank you, my dear children. Have a good day, have a good afternoon, and stay safe. Thank you.